Is this mine?
Yeah, I just had to hook it up. They needed to hear that.
Okay. We're doing this a little guerrilla style here.
Just because we don't have an office, this is a room and it's not a lot of room.
Yeah.
Room, right?
Hold on, folks. Do-do-do. I don't know how to do this.
Huh?
How's that?
I got you. Just give me a second. You can talk. They can hear you right now.
People. Jordan Chariton, live from one of the moldiest hotel rooms I've ever been in. Ty and I have been coughing up a lung, and I am very stuffy because I'm allergic to mold. I will not put this hotel on blast, Ramada in Pennsylvania, but it is extremely moldy. And I don't know how anyone...
Huh? I just want to change the color. The color, yeah. Thank you. Go ahead. You can keep talking.
I don't know how anybody on this floor slept, because between me and Ty...
I couldn't even breathe.
And our snoring, it probably sounded like a zoo. But we are here, and we wanted to go live with you, the audience, before we hit the road. I think we have another 4.5 hours of driving till we hit
We're good.
Michigan.
Put the pillow down.
So let's see if people could hear me. Let's see if you could hear me, if you could see me. Let me know.
I definitely can hear you.
Oh, you can hear me?
I can see they can hear you.
Okay. So, crash the like, smash the like button. Dude, I could hear how congested you are. Seriously, Bluefire? Got no idea. I don't know what the hell is in this hotel, but it is so moldy. And it's like not a crappy hotel. The room is nice, but it's not good. Anyway, so Ty will be joining me in a little bit. Smash the like button. Let's get it out there to as many people as possible. Jeff said, lol, hostage video. It kind of does look like a little backdrop to like an Al-Qaeda video.
Al-Qaeda?
Yeah.
No, it doesn't.
Okay. So, I'm putting the GoFundMe link in because we are on the road and we have a very ambitious goal, folks, and that is to hit $50,000 in our GoFundMe by the end of this reporting trip. So let me tell you a little bit about what we're doing. So yesterday we started driving from New York City. We drove for about 5.5 hours, and we arrived.
You need to come more this way so they can see you. See, you're in the middle of the frame right there.
Yeah, I see.
Okay.
It does kind of look like a hostage video, though.
It does, like, wait, huh?
Yeah.
So treating us right.
Yeah.
Taliban, I think, the Muslim state, they're just a little upset at us.
Yeah.
Let me balance it.
So we got 4.5 hours to go before we hit Warren, Michigan. We're going to Warren, Michigan, which is about 20 minutes from Detroit, because Warren, Michigan is one of the plants that is being closed down as part of General Motors restructuring. When all these corporations take money from the government in bailouts and tax cuts and then lay off their workers, that isn't called immoral greed. That isn't called immoral hoodwinking. That's called restructuring. So Warren Transmission Plant in Warren, Michigan, they're laying off, I believe it's like 1,400 of their workers. Some of the workers are getting offers to transfer, but it's not like, when you hear the term, the company says, well, the employees are getting transfer options, so that's a good thing. Well, is it a great thing when you're told your job is being cut? At the same time, the company that's cutting your job is making $8 billion in profits last year. $8 billion with a B in profits last year. And, you have about 7 days to decide if you want to uproot your family to Texas, to a plant that they'll send you to, or to Indiana, to a plant they'll send you to, or to Flint, to a plant they'll send you to. It's not like, just transferring them. Okay, you still have a job, but you got 7 days to decide, do you want to essentially leave your wife and kids? Because you're not going to move your whole family in 7 days. Your kids are in school. Your wife has a job in the neighborhood. So this is tearing up families. It's tearing up whole communities. And we'll get to that in a little bit. And I want to get to the wider discussion, because this is not only about, we're not just covering this because it's about General Motors and layoffs in Ohio, and Michigan and Maryland and Ontario, Canada.
Yeah.
This is about the whole United Corporations of America economic political system, which frankly the Republicans are to blame as well as the Democrats. So before we,
and I think also is a good point is understanding like what happens when a person is disconnected,
right?
You know, or you can either call it fake news, you can call it propaganda, but we were able to talk to someone that's on the board, right? And their insight to it, they had every excuse to why this is going on and how great GM has been to this country and how we should be more appreciative. Like, this was almost his kind of articulation of it, and really kind of, you know, having misinformation. You know, I think we had an argument at one point talking about how many people were laid off, 4,000 versus 15,000. It's clearly 15,000. 4,000 came from one specific plant. But I would assume when they were on the phone, that's what the GM was telling their shareholders, that it's only 4,000.
So I want to put this into perspective because A, we're covering it because nobody else is, but B, it's a wider thing. So you have the 2020 presidential campaign coming up, right? So you have people like Kamala Harris. Her bold economic plan is a tax credit for middle class families where you get an extra $500 a month if you're make, you know, under I think it was under $100,000 a year. So her bold plan is a tax credit for $500 a month that equates to about I think an extra $6,000 a year if I'm correct. Somebody do the math for me.
$500 a month?
Yeah.
$6,000 a year.
Yeah. So I said at the time, yeah, that's not a bad thing. I'm not attacking that, but that's not enough because that's not addressing the structural problem of this country, which is that the corporations have bought our government, and the government, in addition to giving them bailouts, in addition to giving them massive tax cuts, which GM got a massive tax cut from Trump's tax cut plan, as well as a massive bailout, $55 billion General Motors got from the bailout under President Obama. But giving tax cuts is not going to change the fact that corporations
are running this country.
Right. And as a result, they are basically, and I had a conversation, more like a debate, with a family member yesterday.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get into which family member because I don't want to blow up his...
just said a friend.
A friend, whatever.
I said a friend. I started it off.
Who works in finance, and he is also owns stock in General Motors. Not a lot, but, you know, a couple shares or whatever. And because he works in finance, because he or she... I already said he. Because he works in finance, because he kind of he's not a bad person, but because he lives in a bit of a New York bubble working in finance, he's, you know, General Motors are honorable gentlemen and gentlewomen. And, you know, they're just doing what they need to do because companies have to be...
They're doing God's work.
Companies have to be efficient. And companies have to be flexible. And companies need to do this and that and the other thing. So I said to him, well, let me ask you a question. And this, if you guys don't know this, a little different lav placement. Is my lav okay?
Well, your live is okay now. That was just a little different line placement.
Okay.
They probably were referring to.
So, automation is the reasoning behind this. No, please recycle. I'll tell you the reasoning behind this. So, I want to just, before I get to the debate I had with my family member, and by the way, folks, I don't mind begging. We are really, really, really trying to push this GoFundMe. So if you got $5, $10, $15, $20, we're at 42,279. Our goal for the end of this reporting road trip, we might be on the road for a week. We might be on the road for 2 weeks. We're going to see how things go, what other stories pop up. You never really know. But we're trying to hit 50,000 by the end of this reporting trip. So the reason we're doing this GoFundMe is for resources to do exactly what we're doing in the field, but also we're trying to grow enough funding where we'll have money to cover Bernie's campaign when he announces, Tulsi Gabbard's campaign, which is already being trying to be sabotaged by propaganda from NBC. Glenn Greenwald just showed you that NBC basically was calling her a Russian puppet based on a totally nonsense cybersecurity firm. Anyway, We're gonna cover Warren's campaign, which we'll get to. We're gonna cover Harris's campaign.
Toward me a little bit. That's
Yeah,
all.
but we need funding to do that. So if you got money, there's the GoFundMe link in the super chat. But I want to read to you.
And thank you for the money that you guys been donating. $42,000.
Yes, 42,000, and I sent out a bunch of packages the other day. So I want to read to you because my family member said to me, "Hey Jordan, $8 billion profit." Because General Motors made $8 billion profit after taxes last year, $11.8 billion before taxes last year. Said, well, that's not really that much, Jordan. I mean, I own stock in General Motors, and I've been losing money. So, you hear $8 billion, but that's not a lot of money. So I said to him, well, who is General Motors responsible to? Its shareholders or the workers that are creating that profit?
Yeah.
Right? So that's...
Somebody made the point. If you were to pay every worker that's being laid off $20 an hour, it only adds up to 1-point-something billion, right?
So you got plenty of money left over.
They're not concerned about that. These shareholders want to get filthy rich.
Right. So let me read to you exactly what General Motors has been doing with a lot of its bailout money, probably with money from its tax cuts. It got hundreds of millions of dollars in tax cuts last year. Here we go. And make sure to press the like button on this so more people could see it. When General Motors announced it was cutting up to 14,000 jobs and idling 5 automotive plants, it justified the massive tax cuts by citing long-term savings. The cuts would free up $6 billion in cash for a net saving of $4.5 billion in cash by 2020. The move will, quote, make General Motors more agile, resilient, and profitable while the economy is still revving, CEO Mary Barra told investors Monday. I don't know what economy she's talking about that's revving. Is the economy revving for you? Because the majority of people I speak to live paycheck to paycheck, barely have adequate health insurance.
And people are like, are you speaking Chinese? Because I don't get it. If you think about it, a lot of people don't understand when they talk about the economy being at 4 point, I think it's at 2.9.
Three something, yeah.
It must have just went up to like 3.1 or something like that. 3.6. That's based on Wall Street. That's based on their shares and their profits. The holders' profits, the stockholders' profits, has nothing to do with an average American that doesn't have any stock or bonds, or if they do, they're penny bonds or something ridiculous where they're not even getting a large return on investment. You know what I mean? So when they say that, it doesn't apply to more than half of the country at all. But what they try to say, oh, well, that means if businesses are doing good, that means they can hire more people. They will not. They never have. That's never been their intention. Their intention only is to satisfy their holders, period, point blank. That's what it's about. That's what the layoffs are about. You cannot earn over $8 billion and then lay off 15,000 people, have a conversation with your shareholders. It's all about getting them more money. They want a higher return on their investment and what they're thinking. That's all it's about. Yes. They made profit.
And speaking of a higher return on investment, Zach Campbell, $4.99.
$4.99.
In the super. Yo, Ty, was that a dab pen you were hitting yesterday? And who are you interviewing next Sunday?
Dab pad. No, that was the CBD. The CBD. Because my shoulder, so I've been smoking the little CBD oil.
Yeah. And next Sunday, I can't tell you.
I would not do that, by the way. That shit seems like it'll kill you, man.
Yeah. Next Sunday, I can't get into next Sunday, but I can tell you I'm currently working on getting an interview with somebody you'll like. So leave it at that.
And I'm trying to get the interview. I think she's probably referring to the lady that I went back and forth with on Twitter, the Republican. We were talking about blackface and what I felt that needs to be done to start to move forward with the race issue. And my main argument is that the history books need to be rewritten. And that seems like a dream when you say it. It seems like something that could never happen. But it can happen if it's campaigned and there's legislation and it's passed forward. But and passed in the federal government, it actually can happen. But then I think we can more than likely probably have another civil war if they propose that, because then states aren't going to do it. You all know just because it's passed federally doesn't mean it's passed. States will adopt that. I mean, if you did it, you can obviously win if you go to a federal court versus a state court. If you're in the state, you go against their laws, but you have to go through all that all that litigation. But if that were to happen, people, I give it to people just like this. The reason that we celebrate the 4th of July every year because they don't want people to forget. They want people to understand what everyone did to make this country the way they did. What our forefathers did to make this country what it is. The reason that we celebrate Thanksgiving every year is because they want to propagate their own truth. But to overshadow the actual truth of Thanksgiving, of what happened, what they do is have us celebrate it every year so you won't forget, so you'll get this truth inside you. The reason that they take things away is because they want to rewrite their own history and give it to you how they want to give it to you. You know what I mean? Think about every dictator in this world. What is the first thing they do? Burn the books. First thing they do is burn the books. So if we want to get over race, we need to be honest about race. The majority of black people, Native Americans in this country feel like they're not being heard. And essentially it comes from how we articulate the history in this country. But anyway, I'll get off subject.
Wait. Can you do me a favor, guys? Don't bring up other topics to Ty. We'll be here till 10 o'clock at night. I love your thoughts, but he tends to be a little long-winded. And by the way, why I was laughing, you did say powerful things. I would love somebody to make a meme or like, those things you could draw on images on, you have apps. Because this really does look like a hostage video. It really does. I love it. No, but you're absolutely right. And
I think the first step to that is changing the history books because, people give a fuck about things that they see all the time. The reason that you have kids growing up still having a skewed idea about blacks, or let's just say about gays. Let's use gay people in that matter. You go to the middle of the country and they still feel evangelicals because they're raised on the Bible. They're raised on it since they were kids. And so they believe it wholeheartedly. Even though it's wrong to them, it's right because they've been raised on it and it's the Bible and they give certain credit to the Bible because it's religion, right? That's why you need to, raise kids and knowing exactly what happened in the history. If they do, they have a certain sensitivity that needs to be had when you talk about those things. They really understand, it'll come to a point where if a person that's in public office offends a black person, they won't get on a mic and have a press conference and apologize to all black people as if they shouldn't be apologizing to the rest of the country. Because it insinuates that it's a black issue. And every time we make it just a black issue, guess what? We still deal with race. It should be an everyone issue. Everyone should be as appalled as I am when you see that a governor or congressman or whoever the fuck is in blackface. Everyone should be as appalled as I am or as a gay person is when you see a gay guy getting beat up and getting a rope tied around their neck in Chicago. Like everyone. You know what I'm saying?
And you know what I'm appalled by? We have 102 people watching, but only 55 likes. So there's 52 of you out there that are asleep at the switch. Like the live stream, please. Even if you dislike me, do it for Ty.
Please.
Because the more people that press the like button, the more people that will see it. Thank you. We just got something, $20 from Steven in the GoFundMe. $20. So now we're at $42,299. $700 away from $43,000.
Have you ever seen the movie Blow?
Yeah.
Okay, it's a part in there when he goes in and he ends his friendship after he takes all his LA business, and the guy is like hella high and he does exactly what you do, like, please.
All right, now we're up to 77, getting better. So I want to tell you
78.
So I want to tell you, General Motors, and by the way, I'm going to get to the larger point because it's not just about General Motors. General Motors, who's saying, oh, well, we're trying to lay off jobs while the economy is, quote, revving, and we're trying to do it so we could be more flexible and agile, and these are all like PR, public relations terms. We're all these companies are restructuring.
Doesn't that sound asinine, though?
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Wait, we're trying to lay off jobs while the country is thriving?
Because they're saying that there's a recession coming, which is true. So we're trying to, beat the recession by getting agile and flexible now.
You know what's funny? Hold on. I'm sorry. You know what's funny, though, and what pisses me off is that they know no one's going to research that. And they know they can't be confronted with those words when we do have a recession and they lay off another 10,000.
Exactly. So I want to read to you what General Motors has been doing with its money that the government gave them $55 billion, a bailout. So They have, since 2015, the company has spent $10.6 billion on buying back its own stock, according to filings with the Securities and Exchange Commission.
Tell them about that.
Stock buybacks do nothing for a company's productive capacity. But because buybacks, when you buy back more of your own shares, it reduces the amount of shares available to be bought, so it drives up the stock price. When you drive up the stock price, who makes more money off of higher stock prices? The investors and the executives of the company that get largely paid based on stock. So wait a minute. They're with the profits they have. They're not using those. They're not using a lot of those profits to do more research and development. They're not using more of those profits to raise wages for their workers that are making the profits for them. They're not using more of those profits to improve health benefits or pension benefits. They're not using more of those profits to retrain workers for electrical car manufacturing or automotive car manufacturing. Because I said to my family member yesterday, who we had a very healthy fight on the phone.
It's actually great.
I said, wait a minute. So if your point is they need to move because these small sedans like the Chevy Cruze, they're laying off a lot of workers that were manufacturing the small sedan Chevy Cruze because that hasn't been selling as much. If it's about moving towards building electrical cars, if it's about moving towards automated cars, why can't you retrain these workers that you're laying off to manufacture electric cars, to manufacture automated cars, to be a part of, they're talking about General Motors is going to jump into the, car share business. So my family member says to me, Jordan, it's very expensive to retrain workers. Well, they're spending $10.6 billion on buying back their own stock so that they could drive up the stock price for who? They're not driving up the stock price for the workers creating that profit. They're driving up the stock price for the investors, and they're driving up the stock price for the executives who largely are paid through stock. So it comes to a broader discussion.
So, but just pause for a second. Now, your brother did mention.
Oh, go ahead.
He did mention that it's hard to retrain people, right?
No, it's not.
No, of course it's not. But that's my argument right there. Mm-hmm. It's hard to retrain people. Okay, so then training people is hard. So are you insinuating that we're not hiring people? This is just going to be an automated thing?
Well, no. He's insinuating that they would hire other people.
That's already, and they still gonna have to train them. Every job, when you hire someone, don't matter if you work in the same industry, they're gonna train you on the way that they operate, and that costs money. You have to train people.
And David,
and automated systems are different. It's almost like this: if you're a server and you have a MOS system that put the orders in and stuff, mm-hmm. They all do the same function, but every job has a different type of software. Right. And you got to learn their software. Then you got to learn how they do it, even though you've been serving for 5 years.
Right. And David says, where did he go? I'm a mechanic. GM is crap, period. I agree with you. And by the way, it's not just GM, because Ford barely got any coverage. Ford just laid off 1,000 workers. And these automotive plants that together, I think they got, how much did the big three get in bailout money? How much money did Big Three get in bailout? The U.S. government's 80.7. So the three of the big three automakers in Michigan got $80.7 billion in federal bailout money, and General Motors got $51 billion of that, I believe. So you're getting massive money in bailouts. And thank you. We just got from Patrick Scarpati $27 in the GoFundMe. Thank you so much, Patrick. Appreciate it. So now we're at 42,326. 42,326. We would love to get to 43,000 today. Yeah. Let's see if we could do that. But this comes to a wider issue. So you're not just laying off these workers. You're basically dropping a missile on whole entire communities. Because General Motors is the biggest employer in Lordstown, Ohio. which is one of the places we're going to go to and cover. General Motors is one of the biggest employers in Detroit. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing it. Detroit Hamtramck, which is closing down a plant. General Motors is one of the biggest employers in the community in Maryland that they're closing this plant. I can't speak for Canada. It's not my expertise, but Ontario, Canada, GM is laying off people. That I don't know how much it will affect that community. But in America, there's a ripple down effect.
Yeah.
And there's been a ripple down effect basically since the 1970s and 80s based on NAFTA. Excuse me, the 1970s, 80s, and 90s, based on these trade deals, these free trade deals, because you lay off these workers who are the economic spenders of a community. General Motors is the largest employer in a lot of these communities. So you lay off the workers, guess what? Then now you don't have people with money in their pockets to go to the local restaurant or diner. Now you don't have people to go to the local small business mom and pop store.
Stores.
So businesses go out. I remember when I was at
And then you got to move a Walmart in because they can sell it cheaper, and people have no choice but to have to go to Walmart.
Right, and you have basically. I remember I went to Altoona, Pennsylvania, when I was at the Young Turks. I did a disappearing middle class tour. Altoona, Pennsylvania was basically like the hub of steel in America.
How close to our tour right now?
Altoona?
Altoona.
A couple hours. It's actually, no, I don't know. We're not that far from Altoona. But during World War II, Altoona was number 3 on Hitler's bomb list because this is where all the weapons came through. Because Altoona created all the steel, which was used in weapons for war.
Germany could have hit Pennsylvania?
Hitler, yeah.
He could have hit Pennsylvania back then?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think. So,
I mean, Russia could definitely.
so the point is, I went to Altoona. Literally, it looked like an episode of The Walking Dead. This community, the downtown area, was just boarded up storefronts, boarded up buildings, closed down everything, and it literally it looked like a post-apocalyptic town. But that Altoona is not just the only. There's towns like that all over because of our free trade, but more importantly, Detroit, because corporations in this country are allowed to do whatever the fuck they want. Corporations in this country get big bailouts with no strings attached. You would think
they have representation in Washington, period, point blank. You know what I'm saying? They got people in there. Ocasio-Cortez broke it down so lovely. I put her video up in my live last week, but she broke it down. That mic is the mic we both are using.
Oh, okay.
So you can't leave. Yeah.
I was getting water.
It's okay. I'll leave. I'll get you some water.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. So you just messed it up. All right. She broke it down so easy to show these loopholes that make it legal for our representatives, supposedly our representatives, to become part of the special interest, where then now they're stockholders in a certain company. They sponsor or help draft legislation to push through and lobby for other senators to help vote that thing through, so then they can make money. They can get rich while they're in office. To them, is somebody yelling?
Mm-hmm. They like what you're saying.
To them, it's more about getting rich than helping out their constituents. They're more concerned about getting rich while they're in office, whether it's 4 years, 8 years, whatever the fuck. They're more concerned about doing that, getting that done before they get out of office. And they'll do anything possible to make that happen. And if that means ignoring their constituents, no problem. It's just it's how what's the term? It's how they do it in DC. As if it couldn't be done a different way. It's just how it goes.
Right. And what's important to note, you would think, it's over there. You would think, we gave the banks $750 billion in bailouts with no strings attached. The banks are bigger than ever and doing all sorts of predatory lending and operations. We gave the big 3 automakers $81 billion between all of them, with apparently no strings attached. You would think that a government that is there to represent its peoples would be helping General Motors, the automakers, the banks, from going bankrupt because they thought, well, if they go bankrupt, the economy goes belly up, but would actually have some mechanisms in place to not only protect the workers, but to elevate the workers. But that's not how this government works. And in a more produced video, I'm going to show you it's not only because the corporations have such a wide control of Washington because of the lobbying, but they're also individually giving a whole lot of money to the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. Nancy Pelosi has taken a lot of money from General Motors over the years. Dan Kildee, who represents Flint, has taken a lot of money from General Motors over the years. Tim Ryan, who represents Ohio as a congressman, he's taken a lot of money from General Motors. Maybe that's why when asked about these General Motor layoffs, let me tell you what Tim Ryan's response was. Tim Ryan, General Motors.
Sure, we don't want to kick Canada down.
So Tim Ryan, who's taken, I don't have the number in. Oh, do I have them? I do have the numbers in front of me. God, I love it when things work out. Hold on one second. Let me get the numbers. Yes. So you have Tim Ryan, who represents Ohio. He's taken in 2014 $9,000 from General Motors. 2016 $8,500. 2018 $7,020. It's a lot of money for an individual congressman. Maybe that's why, when asked about these layoffs, he said retaliating against General Motors after the automakers shuttered a number of factories should not be part of the path forward. Gee, I wonder why we shouldn't, quote, retaliate. Oh, the light went off. I wonder why we shouldn't retaliate. I wonder why we shouldn't retaliate against General Motors when they're laying off 15,000 workers after getting $55 billion from the federal government. Maybe because he's taking quite a lot of money. You wonder why the Democratic Party overall isn't saying much about General Motors laying off its workers. Well, I can tell you, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, 2016, $9,015. 2018, $10,045 she took. Then you have Chuck Schumer, 2016, $10,000 from General Motors. Beto O'Rourke, $13,232 during his Senate campaign in 2018. Dan Kildee, who represents Flint, where General Motors was born. $9,000 in 2014, $9,125 in 2016. 2018, he took $10,425. Debbie Dingell, who is the wife of the John Dingell, who just passed away. $17,600 she took in 2014. 2016, $10,500. 2018, $10,000. She represents Michigan. Senator Debbie Stabenow represents Michigan. 2012, she took $20,400 from General Motors. 2018, she took $29,540. So this is all part of our government is paid off by these companies. And when the companies do wrong, either by being reckless and needing a bailout, or just pay off their shareholders by buying back stocks, the taxpayers, bail them out. Meanwhile, the company is paying off the representatives that are supposed to support you. So let me tell you flat out, when the Republican Party tells you, obviously we know this at this point, when the Republican Party tells you, well, the tax cuts will pay for themselves. The tax cuts will pay for themselves because the companies are going to reinvest in the business with their profit from the tax cut. They're going to hire more workers, better wages. We all know that is a lie.
BS.
Total lie. But the Democratic Party is also lying. Because when the Democratic Party says, and frankly, President Obama was big on this, saying, well, you know...
I love how you always, when you say President Obama, you always look at me.
Because you think he's Black Jesus. So I tell you, he's not.
Wait, no. Well, those are two different issues. He is.
I'm light and you're black in this. Not like that, but you're pretty dark in this.
Huh? I mean, look at that.
Oh, okay.
I'm good.
Yeah. So, but the thing is, President Obama and a lot of Democrats, well, you know, it's not 1978 anymore. We have globalization and competition. So these workers need to train for the jobs of today and tomorrow. Well, that's also bullshit. Because I can tell you, I have interviewed United Auto Workers, automakers. I have interviewed labor union members. I have interviewed auto workers. A lot of them have retrained. The problem? There's no jobs. There's no jobs. And by the way, even before these layoffs, General Motors was, with all this profit they're making, really, really, really paying a lot of workers shit. And also hiring a lot of workers freelance without benefits. So
that's how they get off.
We're becoming more and more of a freelance economy. You're starting to see it in media too, because media, whether it's,
it happened with me for over a year before I got some scoops close to me.
But BuzzFeed just laid off a lot of people. Vice just laid off a lot of people. Huffington Post just laid off a lot of people. So now you're seeing openings for fellows, which are essentially glorified interns that get paid basically nothing. So the bottom line,
paid like entry level.
So the bottom line is,
very good. I'm looking.
I want to read you a little bit more about the insane amount of money General Motors has gotten for the government and what they're doing now. Tax justice and labor advocates were among those who expressed outrage Monday at the news that General Motors, one of the corporate giants that benefited immensely from the Republican tax plan last year, would cut 15% of its workforce, shuttering production facilities in 3 states as well as Canada. The automaker is closing 5 plants in Ohio, Michigan, Maryland, and Ontario, with plans to cut thousands of office jobs in January, slashing a total of 14,700 jobs. The move comes less than a year after the Republican Party pushed through its tax plan, which offered $514 million in a tax break to General Motors. According to the advocacy group Not One Penny, $100 million of those savings went to enriching GM shareholders, contrary to the Republicans' claims that corporate benefits of the tax cuts would trickle down. General Motors' decision to gut its workforce epitomizes the bad corporate behavior Republicans in Congress have incentivized for generations instead of using its massive tax savings to increase employee wages or invest in its workforce. GM is shuttering plants and cutting jobs to increase profits and further enrich shareholders, said Ryan Thomas, a spokesperson for Not One Penny. The American people will not forget the Republicans in Congress permitted these morally reprehensible and irresponsible actions.
We will. Yeah, we will. Because motherfuckers aren't curious enough to look up stuff like this. If their party say something, they go on with what their party say, period, point blank. So it will. They understand it's one thing. They manipulate our ignorance. They manipulate our laziness. And they bank on that. This is the reason why Hillary is not in office right now. Because they were banking on it. Because it's what they do all the time. They bank on our ignorance and they bank on our inactivity. And we don't do nothing. So they know more than likely, if Republicans back us, whoever is on their side, they're going to back us as well because no one's curious enough. They understand how tribal we are. And they understand that we can't help ourselves. We can't help ourselves, regardless, even if it's not even in our interests. We're going to be on the side of Republicans or on the side of liberals only based on that. No information at all. None of that matters. And you go in and then you vote against your own interests, period.
And I will also add, let's see what this article says. So, meanwhile, GM has already spent much of the last year cutting its workforce, offering buyouts to 18,000 workers.
Jimmy, I'll marry you anytime, brother.
Senator Sherrod Brown of Ohio called GM's decision corporate greed at its worst. Quote, the workers at Lordstown are the best at what they do, and it's clear once again that GM doesn't respect them, Brown wrote on Twitter, referring to the plant that will be closing in his home state. Ohio taxpayers rescued GM, and it's shameful that the company is now abandoning the Mahoning Valley and laying off workers right before the holidays. President Donald Trump's steel tariffs have contributed to rising costs facing GM as domestic steel has grown more expensive. But critics suggested that the company's huge profits and financial assistance from the government over the past several years should have left GM capable of keeping its workforce intact. In addition to the financial windfall it enjoyed, thanks to the GOP tax plan, GM has been given a total of $50 billion in government funds over the past decade as the U.S. sought to bail out the company. The United Auto Workers Union slammed GM for moving production of some of its top-selling vehicles to China and Mexico, while putting Americans out of work. Quote, we must step away from the anti-worker thinking of seeking simply the lowest labor cost on the planet, UAW President Gary Jones said. The practice of circumventing American labor in favor of moving production to nations that tolerate wages less than half of what our American brothers and sisters make must stop. More importantly, we must understand that these companies, including GM, are no longer in trouble. They are recording annual profits in the tens of billions. So I want to get to a broad...
David says, ineffable is a word. I appreciate you, David.
Yes, you're right. You're right. The mold is getting to me. Oh, no, I said that in the car. I said that in the car. And by the way, folks, as an update, I'll keep saying it until I'm blue in the face. We have a very bold goal. We're trying to hit $50,000 by the end of this reporting road trip. So that's a goal.
You know what Congress is doing, what these corporations are doing is ineffable. To express, it's ineffable. There's no word for it. Corruption is not a word for it. It's something else. It's past corruption. At least with the mafia, they were corrupted, but they cared about somebody. They was looking out for them and their people. They did a lot for their community. I mean, they were killing it. But I'm saying it wasn't just about them personally, that one person that was the boss. You know what I'm saying? You can say that is corruption. What's going on with these corporations, I don't know what it is. I don't even know what to call it. If you think about what he just read right now, about them moving those jobs, what they're saying is they're so unconvinced that the electric cars will sell here. They won't even do anything to... Back in the day, back in the 30s, 40s, during the beginning of the turn of the 20th century, when cars wasn't that accessible, what did they start to do? They started to pound on it. They started to do campaigns where they can sell more and then push the price down so more people can get it. They made it happen. They don't want to make this happen. So they say, oh, we're going to move it over here because we can sell electric cars in China and in Canada, and we'll get more for our profit, and we'll stay doing what we're doing, stand in the box.
Right. And what I think is so important about this, and the broader point, why we're here, besides the fact that no one else is covering it, which is part of why we're asking you, GoFundMe. We're at 42,326. So I'm not good at math, but I think we could get to 43,000 today.
Hold on one second. Bob K. I don't want to be misunderstood. I understand. Bob K says, Ty, Hillary was not in office because of her corruption, cheating, and anything to do with nothing. And okay, not anything to do with the people. So Bob K says, Ty, Hillary is not in office because of her corruption and cheating. Not anything to do with the people. Okay, so look, you misunderstood me because what you're saying here is exactly what I said. What I'm saying is this. She was banking on us not knowing that. She was banking on us not being informed, not being curious enough to get this information.
You want to get us kicked out of this moldy hotel?
Okay, sorry. She was banking on us not being curious enough to get the information, Bob. I understand. That's why. What I'm saying is there's no consequence to a lot of these politicians been able to do, historically speaking, been able to do whatever they want to do with no consequence. That's because people haven't been curious enough, or we haven't been getting the proper information out that we needed to move forward. So she was banking on the old way of doing things is what I'm saying. She's all those things, but she was banking on the fact that we may not know as much as we know, we may not act on it. That's what she was banking on. Because that's what they all bank on, misinformation. They bank on our laziness to not go vote. This is the reason. Before black people could vote, they didn't come and campaign and try to come get at black people a week before. I mean, they still, for the longest time, they were still banking on black people to just vote Democrat. Think about that. That's what I'm talking about. The ignorance is what they were banking on. I understand why, but it's that information, the lack of that information is the reason, is what she was banking on, that people wouldn't have the information of me being corrupt. So we're saying exactly the same thing.
Okay, now that you've interrupted me twice before I beg for money.
That's what we're supposed to do that because you always just want to take the conversation. It's us.
Well, I'm trying to get us some funds here so we can cover more stories. So we're trying to reach 50,000 by the end of this reporting road trip. It's very ambitious. I don't know if it's going to happen, but you got to dream big. And who's going to pay? You know, they always ask, well, who's going to pay for it, Jordan? The viewers are going to pay for it because the viewers want real reporting in the field.
They always ask that. They don't ask when people ask for money to go to war.
Right,
But
exactly.
they ask us when we ask for money, who's gonna pay for it?
So
The viewers.
let me tell you something. There's I'm not specifically talking about any organization, but there are some
Jimmy
organizations.
Stone, I don't know who you are. This is my first time really seeing you, but I'm loving your love, and I appreciate it.
There are some media organizations out there that like to talk about being progressive, like to ask for money for certain things. I don't have anyone in mind in particular, but we are showing you what we're going to do. We're showing you. We're here. We're doing it. And we got a lot to cover.
Hey,
so,
Jordan's so petty, y'all.
Yeah. No, I'm not talking about any media organization in particular. I'm just saying in general, there's a lot of companies now asking you to subscribe, become a member, do this, do that. And then what do you get? You get an update on every time Donald Trump farts, breathes, or there's Russian trolls coming for your holy democracy, and you have to look under your pillow.
Are we ever going to rap? Have we met that threshold yet?
We said when we hit 50,000.
Was it 50? I thought it was 30.
No, it was 50.
Okay.
But now that we've increased it to 70, we can still do it at 50.
Oh,
we could do a Jewish rap battle at 50. I think that's fair.
We keep increasing it, they ain't going to never get the rap battle. We should stick. Us increasing that has nothing to do with
No, we're going to do it at 50.
With the rap battle.
Now 50 was the rap battle. So you're going to get the gefilte fish and fried chicken rap battle. It's going to be televised live on international internet. Yeah. And it's going to be great. I've been practicing in the shower, so be prepared.
Jimmy, send me your music. I'll check it out. If it's something we can use for our intro, because right now, everything is licensed and we have to get this. I don't know y'all heard the music. It's just shitty. If you got some good music that we can put on the intro, when we about to go live while people are working, send it to me at tyhefe@gmail.com. Jimmy Stone. My email, write it down. Give you a second. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, tyhefe@gmail.com.
You could just write it in there. Okay, so I just put the GoFundMe link in there. Thank you. Keep it coming. We're trying to hit 50. I have sourcing that tells me Bernie will be announcing this month. We want to have the funds to cover his rollout and the beginning parts of the campaign. There's other candidates we want to cover. We need you to do it, which brings me to the larger point of all this, why we're covering this. I believe in what Bernie's talking about, that there is a disappearing middle class. But it's not just disappearing, out of just by accident. It's a controlled demolition of the American middle class. And honestly, at this point, it's not only a race thing. It's a money thing. Because there's a whole lot of white people.
No, but that's the whole thing. But to keep it 100.
No, I guess let me finish. What my point is forever and ever, it was really African Americans that have been intentionally by the government essentially pushed into certain neighborhoods. The most industrialized plants plopped on their communities. That's why you have high cancer rates, high lead poisoning. That's where African Americans were basically pushed to. And gentrification has only made that worse. My point is now, it's not just African American, black people, it is white people too, because essentially with the government seizing control, the corporation seizing control of the government, it's essentially, if you don't have anything that can help us, I'm talking as the corporation, then we don't care for you. Because there really is a Hunger Games mentality in this country where shareholders are greedy mongrels. They just want money. One yacht's not enough, 2 yachts not enough, one Lamborghini is not enough. So my point in all this, connecting it to the 2020 presidential candidacy campaign, I'm frankly not seeing, so far, I'm not seeing any candidate with a bold enough economic vision, because if you're Kamala Harris, who I got my problems with anyway, tax credits, for the middle class doesn't address the structural rigging of this economy, the structural, essentially, sale of our economy and our government to General Motors and these corporations. If you're Elizabeth Warren, she's way more progressive than Kamala Harris, I'll give her that. I have issues with Elizabeth Warren, but I've already told you, whether you like it or not, I would vote for her over Donald Trump in a second. I think people that say Elizabeth Warren is the same thing as Hillary Clinton, objectively, that's just not true. I don't like some of the things Elizabeth Warren has done. I don't like her voting for a $715 billion defense budget. I don't like her not showing up for Standing Rock. I don't like her not endorsing Bernie. But if my choice is Trump versus Warren, that's not a lesser of two evils. Warren would be a progressive president as far as economics. But even her economic proposals,
even in that statement,
even her economic proposals are not big enough for a rigged system. The only candidate who has addressed the actual system being rigged and the fact that you need to put a hell of a lot of more regulation on all of these corporations, not just the banks. You have to actually have strings attached to giving these corporations like General Motors, Goldman Sachs, any subsidies. You can't just be handing out free money to all corporations where they don't have to actually keep their workers or hire more workers. This is the economy and this is the government we have, where we're basically handing out the keys to our kingdom to corporations.
Yeah, I feel you. I was going to comment on two things. First off, we got 160, but only 120 likes. You guys like that? Like, please like. What I was going to comment, the fact, I understand what you're trying to say. Is no lesser two evils. She would be a way more progressive than Trump. But at the same time, I don't appreciate her inconsistencies. And I think all those things need to be taken into consideration. You know, she didn't go to Standing Rock. She didn't endorse Bernie. And I would argue that she went against her own heart when she did that as well. She went to her interest versus her heart.
Absolutely.
And I don't appreciate that. You said something that I wanted to comment on. What was I about to interrupt you? Oh, I was going to argue, I think black people have been exploited, prosecuted in this country since the beginning, right?
A lot of them by Kamala Harris.
Yeah. I would say this. I said since the beginning of the country. We're not going to go there.
That's true.
And I would say this. White people, poor whites, they were prosecuted as well. But what happened is the elite whites pointed at black people and said, that's your problem because they were doing that. The reason that white people feel like they're, racist white people that don't have a fucking clue, well, who I'm speaking of, feel like they're inferior to black people, it's because of the poison that the elites were saying, just like what they're doing right now. When they say Hispanics are taking your jobs and Mexico is doing this, they did this to black people. So then that anger was targeted toward black people. So I would go to say that white people have been fucked a long time. Poor whites have been fucked a long time as well. But they were lied to and convinced that it was the black people that was causing their misery. And that's why they were driving their hate toward blacks.
Right.
The blacks were taking their jobs. The blacks were moving in. The blacks were doing all that. The same tactics that they're using for Mexico, for Mexicans right now, it hasn't changed. They give poor whites something to point at, so then they won't get the backlash. As long as they can keep poor whites in check, guess what? Keep the poor whites arguing with some other race, guess what? That's going to get all the poor people fighting against each other while the corporations and the wealthy whites continue to do what the fuck they want. Fucking everybody. The only reason right now we see more poor whites being fucked is because there's more information out. If people understood fracking back in the day, guess what? Those poor whites that you go and you light a match up under their sink and it blows up or it just sets on fire, that would have been happening then. And it would have been happening to them. Telling you, when it really comes to it, they don't give a fuck who you are. But what they do is they understand that this country has been born on racism. They understand how deep it is. They understand that's all they need to do to get poor whites on their side. That's all they need to do to get poor whites on their side. It's just tickle on that racist sentiment because it's always there. It's the reason why we had the Civil War. It's the reason why we had the Revolutionary War. It's a part of the soil of this country, and people understand that. And all I have to do is distract them with that bullshit, so they won't get together and start to talk about what's really going on. Let me distract them and have them hate each other, and we're going to fuck them all. They won't see it. But if we can keep poor whites thinking it's somebody else, they know it's not us, they'll vote against their own interests. Because dead ass, the Republican Party, there's no legislation, there's no ideology right now that will address your issue. They have broad issues of stopping things that help you, that you take right now. Medi-Cal, Social Security. welfare. All those things help poor whites too. And they want you to vote against your own interests. Because they're going to tell you it's the Mexicans that's doing it. So I just say that to say that, they distract poor whites. And until poor whites can be like, hold the fuck on. Because this doesn't make sense. I'm just going for a party and they really not looking out for me. Mm. They're triggering on this pride that I'm supposed to have where I don't want no one doing anything for me. I don't want the government doing anything. They grab the Second Amendment and use the ideas of the Second Amendment to then erode any type of new deal that FDR put in place that actually assists you and assist you and will assist people after you. It's a good thing. That's not to say that people don't corrupt it, but people corrupt everything. You can look at every institution and see corruption in it. Look at your government.
Thank you, Captain. $2.
$2. Bernie and AOC ticket for me. AOC's too young, player, but I feel you. I was just talking to Jordan about that yesterday. But Nina Turner. Bernie and Nina Turner. That's my ticket.
So, Meeg, where on the road is Jimmy and Ty going? Oh, I guess you're going somewhere with Jimmy. Yeah. So,
y'all should reach out to Jimmy and say that he can have me on the show. I love Jimmy.
Yeah. So I wanna basically connect it. And by the way, what I was saying, because I saw a few comments, I'm not endorsing Elizabeth Warren. She ain't my choice for president because of all the things Ty and I just discussed. I'm just saying I really don't think, as progressives, we have to be able to distinguish a difference between a neoliberal warmonger like Hillary Clinton and a not progressive enough Elizabeth Warren. Yeah. Elizabeth Warren, to me, is not a neoliberal warmonger who is very obviously corrupt through 20, 30 years of corruption and being bought off by donors. Elizabeth Warren, although I'm unhappy with some of the things she did, I don't doubt economically she would be way more progressive than a Hillary Clinton. I don't see, although I do think she in general is in this prism of, America's military-industrial complex, I am not worried that we're going to be at war with two countries if Elizabeth Warren is president. If Hillary Clinton became president, I think it's very possible by now we would have been at war with Syria and possibly even Iran down the road, because that's her track record and that's her worldview. So I'm not endorsing Elizabeth Warren. What I am saying is if given the choice between Trump and Elizabeth Warren, for me, I would not look at it as like, well, this is just another lesser of two evils. Like she would actually do things that could help your wallet, whereas I don't see Hillary Clinton doing anything. But
let me address that though. But isn't it worth pointing out that she can be convinced to go otherwise based on her voting in 2016 and her inactivity during 2016? That's the thing that worries. Like I think they're polar opposite. I'm not saying that she's the lesser of her two evils, but if she doesn't have conviction, that means she can be convinced, because when you don't have conviction, that means more than likely you're preoccupied with your office, right? You're preoccupied with being in the office and what's best for your job. Maybe you can say, this is best. Maybe she's like, this is best for me right now because I want to run in 2020. I don't know. But if you have a conviction and you voting for somebody because they're a woman, you're voting for somebody because they're black, and that's it, or what will be good for your career, that's something that needs to be put out there, needs to be questioned, because, yeah, you can be progressive, but what about when the fire? Because your character only expresses itself when your back is against the wall, not when everything going right for you. When everything going right and you can say who's bad, who's good. And I'm not saying she's disingenuous. What I am saying, though, is that she endorsed Hillary Clinton, and if she endorsed Hillary Clinton, that means her views, what she was expressing yesterday morning, must have been something that just came to her a year ago. And I beg to differ. I think she been had those views, but it was compromised. And if you can be compromised because of your career, that's something that we should talk about. That's something worth arguing.
Yes. And I think the point is, because somebody just made a really a fair comment.
What?
Is it only about our wallet, Jordan? What about the environment? What about social issues? I totally agree with you. And I think I've proven, I'm not saying like, oh, I would vote for her and then I'd never question her or even challenge her before the election. I think you know by now we'd be very critical and we'd be provoking and grilling somebody like Elizabeth Warren, her campaign, her voters, because that's the only way you actually get them consistent and get them to move to the left. But I was just saying I think it's toxic for actual progress to be completely black and white and just say, you know what, this person doesn't agree with 100% of what I want, so I'm not going to vote for them. Yeah, well, you're going to be in a lonely club for the rest of your life then.
And you're never going to get, like, everything is nuanced, nothing is black and white. That's just it. And if you think that, you're thinking it's effed. But to go back to that comment right there,
ineffable.
You have to I know, right? To go back to your comment, I feel this, and you would know this if you ever had to struggle. Who's that made the comment? Is it just about money?
I lost it.
Okay. I'm not sure. I'm sorry. I didn't see your name. But listen, when people can't pay their bills, when people are worried about if they're going to be able to feed their kids, when people are worried about if they're going to be able to keep the lights on because it's
Janet Kelton.
Janet Kelton. When people have those distractions, they don't give a fuck about the environment. They're worried about right now. My children, my heat, my survival right now. The environment is secondary. So I think money is imperative. So people won't be distracted with that. So then we can talk about everything else. It's imperative. If you believe in the Bible, it talks about prosperity. It's because there's a lot more things we have to deal with. And even back then, those people that wrote the Bible understood that if people are preoccupied with how they're going to eat, they won't be able to hear anything about the environment. Because they're hungry. Because their children are hungry. So no, let's get that out the way. Let's deal with that. Let's not have people worrying month to month how they're going to pay their bills. And then the environment is something, yes, I think people will care, but it's hard to care about this huge issue when I don't know how I'm going to feed my kids tomorrow. I'm for real. And you have to take that into consideration. And sometimes you only can understand that or empathize with that as if you've been through it. You know what I mean? As a kid, I've been through it. I've been through eating cheese out of cardboard box. You know, the government used to give you cheese. It would be a block of cheese in a cardboard box, a huge stick of fake cheese. Getting pork in a can. You know what I mean? Getting dry powdered milk. Like, I was raised on that because we were that poor. So I understand the distractions that come with that. I couldn't get my hair cut because my father was worried about how he was going to pay the rent. I mean, we luckily, thank God, we never had our lights taken off. But I understood my parents yelling all the time, and the only thing they're yelling about is money, bills. My father, the first time I ever saw my father cry is when he caught up on his bills. We lived in a projects. I don't know how much the rent was, but it couldn't have been that much. And he was still worried about the bills. That's what I'm saying. Like, if we could get rid of that distraction for people, then we could get more people to pay attention. It's hard to pay attention or to multitask when you're worried about literal survival. You're worried about your children. People shut down when it comes to their kids. So, I mean, I don't know. I think think about that.
And I also think that overall, so many people, when we talk about so many people aren't paying attention, so many people are kind of asleep at the switch, part of that also, what you said, people are working crazy hours, crazy jobs, but so many people are just fucking hopeless.
Yeah.
So many people we meet.
It's been going on so long.
When you've been beaten down by, the General Motors of the world, the bank, the Wall Street, which foreclosed on you, by the government and the red tape and the bureaucracy. I mean, I personally right now are dealing with a large bill from the federal government where they're basically not being flexible with me, even though. Not to get into the whole thing, but I owed money on something and they're not being flexible with me. The reason I was late to pay the money is because I had emergency back surgery and I was late filing. Anyway, the point is So many people in Flint, Detroit, Lordstown, Ohio, where we're going to go, Warren, are hopeless. Because after a while, you just kind of succumb to like, this is the system. This is the system. It's never going to change. I've heard that from so many people. I think what Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has been successful in doing, I think what Bernie has been successful in doing, and people in that class, has been saying, well, it doesn't have to be this way. Yeah, it's been this way, but it doesn't have to be this way. They want you. They want you, 147 people watching right now, and all the other progressives.
Look how close we are to the likes.
Right.
Appreciate y'all.
They want you to feel hopeless. Yeah. They want you to have nothing but cynicism. They want you to basically succumb, to get hooked on drugs or whatever is your vice, and not fight back.
What they want you to do is be desperate, so then they can manipulate your thoughts. This is why it's happening to you. If you're desperate enough about how you're going to pay stuff, you're looking for an answer. You're looking for a reason. This is exactly what I was talking about, how they use the propaganda to prop up racism. But you have to be desperate enough to hear it. Even if you're getting over it, even if you're like, I don't think it's that. Well, you're desperate enough, you need to hear, you're willing to hear anything to get past that. Somebody said Detroit Red. What was that? Paul said Detroit Red was a great man. Wasn't Detroit Red a pimp?
So, I can't pay attention to your amazing gospel right now because your chest is sticking out and it's so attractive.
Well, I have to put my shoulders hurting, so I have to lean. I
was just letting you know. It's distracting. You're so beautiful. A lot of people saying you're so beautiful. Anyway, before we go, because we got checkout soon, I want to give you a little itinerary. We're making it up as we go. We still have a lot of people to call and try to get contacts. If you live in Detroit, if you live in Warren, Michigan, if you live in Lordstown, Ohio, if you live in any of the areas surrounding, if you've been affected by General Motors or any other corporation treachery, if you know people that have been affected, I'm not just talking the workers. I'm talking teachers in the communities, small business owners in the communities, pastors in the communities, local politicians in the communities. Email Jordan at protonmail.com. I just put it in the live chat. That's email Jordan at protonmail.com. We're driving today to Warren, Michigan. Tomorrow, write it down. Tomorrow, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time.
Oh, hold on. That's why I understood. I'm sorry. Paul, that's why. I'm like, Detroit Red sounds so familiar because I have a lot of pimp documentaries. But Detroit Red is Malcolm X. Malcolm X. You tried to use Detroit Red to let us know that you knew him back. Okay. Detroit Red is Malcolm X. It just came to my head. I'm like, Detroit Red? Oh, that's Malcolm X. No, Malcolm X was great. Absolutely. You said Detroit Red. I was actually thinking of the documentary Pimps Up, Hoes Down or American Pimp. These two documentaries. I was thinking that Detroit Red. But Detroit Red was Malcolm X. Of course he was a great guy.
Ty needs to shave his head and give it up. He looks stupid.
Shave his head and give it up.
I don't know what that means.
No, hold on. Wait, hold on. My head is shaved, player. I'm not trying to act like
I don't know what you're talking
I'm
about.
not bald. I think he's trying to say I'm trying to hold on to my hair.
Well, you are trying to hold on to a lot of things, but
I'm not trying to hold on.
We don't have 3 hours.
I need to
get
shave
into
my
that.
head.
If I could get into all the things Ty's
Be
trying
more
to hold on to.
specific. What you trying to say?
So before
I'm trying to show
before you interrupted me, 3:30 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. So normally we're live 5 o'clock daily. Obviously, when we're on the road, it's not going to be the same consistent time every day because we got to do interviews when they're available. 3:30 tomorrow, 3:30 in the afternoon. We're going to be live streaming a UAW meeting, the United Auto Workers in Warren, Michigan. The meeting is in response to General Motors layoffs. So we're going to be We're going to be live streaming that meeting, taking you inside the community's response. Yeah. I don't know how many people are going to be there, but to my knowledge, there's going to be workers affected and industry people there. We're going to try to interview people there. And this is the important stuff. This is what I love to do. Like when we were in East Chicago, showing you the community response and the community meetings to fight back against, lead poisoning. So we're going to take you inside the UAW meeting tomorrow, 3:30 Eastern Time. Write it down. Put it in your calendar. We're also going to be doing interviews in Detroit. There's a big water problem in Detroit. Public schools literally shut down all the water fountains in Detroit last year. Did you see Rachel Maddow talking about that? I don't think so.
Hold on.
Here we go. Can't go 1 hour without being an apologist.
It's not being an apologist. Like, I get it. God damn. You know what I'm saying? I just don't understand.
3:30 Eastern Time. 3:30 Eastern Time.
I want to, before I comment on what the ignorance you just spewed. This is how much I love Malcolm X. If you guys can see, can you see it? That is Martin Luther King, and right next to him is Malcolm X. And if you look, it's a man hanging from a tree. You guys can see it's a man hanging from a tree. And it says right here, never take for granted the sacrifices made for you. I got this tattoo 2010. Martin Luther King, Malcolm X. Never take for granted the sacrifices made for you. Man hanging from a tree. The man hanging from a tree represent all the other people that died. Just for us to be able to be looked at as a person. This is what I have an issue with when you bring up her. Like, she is the one that exposed Flint. And just because she don't expose Detroit or maybe don't know about it right now, I don't think every time we need to point that out. Like, what does that do?
I completely disagree.
Obviously.
Thank you, Sway Ocean, 1999.
Sway, what's happening,
1999 in the super chat. Mary Poppins loves
you,
Mary Poppins loves Jordan and Ty. I agree. And by the way, not that I'm knocking you for super chat, but if it's possible, we prefer GoFundMe. YouTube takes 30%. 30% of the super chat donations YouTube takes, which is also a separate crime. YouTube is no better than General Motors in my view. But
30% is a lot.
Yeah.
That's how much you pay a lawyer when you can't pay him up front.
Right. So what before you interrupted me for the 15th time, we are 3:30 Eastern tomorrow, the General Motors meeting. Not the company, but UAW.
He think having a conversation is interrupting because he
likes
us to be the head.
We got to check out, so I'm trying to wind down, you know. I love your church sermons. They're fantastic. But, by the way, let me tell you something. I really mean it. I really mean it when I say status quo can't just be me. I've been trying to get this guy to go live every day for the last 4 months, but he don't want to do it. I've been trying. I've been trying.
Because my shoulder and stuff. They see when I go live and I sit down, like my shoulder is the worst, dog. I want to be able to talk.
I got an idea for you. Maybe if you went live every single day.
No, maybe if you gave me the desk, like we've been talking about, that I can lift up.
Yeah, let me buy you $1,000 standing desk with the non-existent money.
Oh man.
Ty thinks money grows on trees. So we're going to be covering the water situation in Detroit, and it is important to point out Rachel Maddow, and not just her, CNN, MSNBC, the New York Times, the Washington Post, because these people have the power, they have the responsibility. Yeah. Water is the most important thing for all of us. Yeah. That's not an opinion, it's a fact. You can't live without clean water. And if you're going to be drinking dirty water, you're not going to live that long. So I don't care if Rachel Maddow, which I've given her credit in the past for covering Flint in the beginning. She hasn't done a whole lot since. But yes, people like Rachel Maddow and CNN and the New York Times and the Washington Post, I'm absolutely going to call them out because let me ask you a question. Is it not important that probably thousands and thousands of children, mostly black, in Detroit, probably have lead contamination from drinking?
I'm not saying that it's not important.
So I'm absolutely going to call her out. But the point is,
they got the power.
The point is, we're not just...
They have the reach.
Right. And we are in business and in existence not only to elevate these stories, but to shame the corporate media because we need more coverage of this.
I got you.
We're not trying to monopolize the coverage. We're trying to get more coverage on it.
Sure. Look, who is this?
Am I wrong, people?
No, I think you're right.
Should I give Rachel Maddow a pass? Don't even get him started. You know who he loves. You know who Ty absolutely loves?
Well, let me just say this.
Anyone on CNN.
Use a razor.
Loves Anderson Cooper.
I can't use
loves
a razor.
Chris Cuomo.
Wait, hold
loves
on.
them all.
Wait, come on. Let's keep it real. If you're gonna say I love somebody, just keep it real. Don't lie.
Andrea says, that's right, Jordan. Thank you very much.
Don't lie. Look, I can't use a razor because I'm black.
Jimmy says,
and hold on.
Jordan must have some Jewish in him because he's my favorite white boy.
Oh, he's all Jewish. I don't know if you guys
100% kosher meat.
I can't use a razor. It'll give me like razor bumps because with black people, your skin overheals, or when it grows out, it curls in and it gives you bumps. So I have to use clippers. But I just I cut my hair like every 3 days. I'm good, but I'm good, man. What you talking about, pimp?
Okay, so we're gonna be trying to speak with people in Detroit.
Erin Burnett. I don't like her. I don't like Aaron Burnett.
Yeah, but he loves Chris Cuomo. He loves Anderson.
I like Chris Cuomo. The only one.
Loves Wolf Blitzer.
Wait, hold on. Don't lie.
You do.
Only one I talk about. I'm like, you know what? If there's anyone, he can do better. But if there's anyone I would look at that at least challenges people, is Chris Cuomo.
Okay. So can I just get through what we're doing?
Okay, then don't lie. Then you can get through.
I'm
Just
not lying.
Don't lie.
You
are.
You call me all the time watching CNN. And
I watch
praising
CNN because I'm trying to get the news, but I watch Fox as well.
Wait a minute. Did you just say you watch CNN to try to get the news?
I watch CNN to see what's going on, what they're talking about.
But they're not talking about what's going on. They're talking about what's going on with Trump. They're not talking about what's going on in the world.
I don't watch. The only news station I don't watch is MSNBC.
Really, Ty Wolf?
Yeah. See how you putting that out there?
Hey, wait a minute. Whoever gets the best nickname for Ty, I'm sending you a free status quo backpack.
If you live in the country.
If you live in America, because boy, these international. I just sent out shirts and hats to 2 international donors.
We love y'all.
Thank you for the money, but boy, I had to sell my left kidney to afford this.
Well, no, it's okay.
I mean,
we just had to give half of the money back for the postage.
Yeah, postage for Australia and
It's okay though. Yeah. We appreciate it.
Anyway, but the point is, tomorrow, 3:30 p.m. Eastern, General Motors response meeting in Warren, Michigan to the layoffs. Tuesday, we're going to try to do some coverage of the water problem in Detroit. We're doing all this on the fly, so we're going to try to get more people to speak to. So we'll probably be in the Detroit area for 3 or so days. Then on the way back, we're going to stop in Lordstown, Ohio, where General Motors is also laying off, I believe, 1,500 people. In Lordstown. Oh, no, it's actually more than that in Lordstown. So we're going to try to talk to auto workers in Lordstown, Ohio, but not just the auto workers. We're going to try to talk to people in the community because like we were talking about, it's a ripple-down effect. You've got the small business owners that are threatened, teachers who have students. The students' parents work for General Motors, so families are being ripped apart. And we're also going to stop over in Cleveland because Cleveland has a lead problem that no one's talking about.
A broken clock is right twice a day.
Cleveland has a lead problem that no one's talking about. 17% of children in Cleveland were found to have high lead levels, and they've only tested 50% of the children in Cleveland. What's the predominant skin color of children in Cleveland?
The predominant skin color of children in Cleveland? I don't know. What's the
Black.
percentage? I
So,
mean, I know
I'm making a
black.
point.
I know what you think. I'm stupid. I know what you're doing.
No, I'm saying I'm making a point. It's mostly black children. Ty Dolla Fine? Great.
Hashtag Ty Dolla Fine.
So we're going to cover water in Detroit, the lead problem in Cleveland, the General Motors layoffs. I've gotten a few emails on a couple other stories. We're doing everything on the fly. I don't ever...
Exhaust 11 said, who's a better driver?
Definitely.
We don't know because I'm always driving Miss Daisy. For some reason, he thinks because of my skin color that I need to be driving.
What the fuck are you talking about? Last trip we're on, I drove 5-6 hours.
I'm kidding.
Yeah.
No, that's not true. I rather drive because I don't trust people driving. Jordan likes to text and drive because he wants to kill everybody, and it pisses me off.
I text and drive occasionally.
I normally drive because I'm more comfortable driving and I don't feel like dying.
Okay. So if you live in any of these areas, Detroit, Warren, Michigan, Lordstown, Ohio, Cleveland, Ohio, if you got a story idea you want to send us, if you have connections to auto workers that are being affected, if you have connections to people affected by the water problem, if you have other stories that you think we should look at and people we could talk to, email Jordan at protonmail.com. Email Jordan at protonmail.com. Status Quo is not just a YouTube channel. That's right. We're a media revolution.
Exactly.
But revolution takes more than 2 people. We need you. So what I'm going to ask you kindly to do,
also, we're going to have, just to let you guys know, for members, we have a lot of behind the scene footage for you guys. So continue to become members and things like that. We're shooting a lot of things that you guys haven't seen behind the scenes as we're doing this road trip. We're actually going to be going live a few times as we are on the road. So become a member, see this behind the scene footage of us kicking it, right?
Yeah. So you could become a member as low as $5 a month.
$5.
There's higher levels too. You could also do it annually at $147. Membership is how we're going to be able to get on the road consistently. Membership is how we're going to grow long term. So we're not just sitting here wanting to talk about Russia and bullshit 24/7. We are showing you the actual truth, the ugly face of the controlled demolition of the middle class, of the disappearing middle class, of the United Corporations of America. That's what we're doing. So we need your support. Become a member. Statuscoup.com/join. Statuscoup.com/join. What do you spend $5 on a day?
Yeah.
What do you spend
Coffee.
$10 on a week? What do you spend $20 on a month? I think it could be put to better use on real independent journalism in the field. Because I got news for you. Do you see a lot of other outlets giving these people a microphone?
Nope.
Handing over the microphone to, what do they say? Give voice to the voiceless.
Yeah.
This is the voiceless.
Yes.
This is why somebody like Donald Trump was elected president. Because you have a huge, huge section of the country. And it's not just the Midwest. The same stuff's happening in the South, Southwest, Northeast. Basically, the oligarchs have hijacked your country. And we want to expose that. We want to show it. And whatever we could do to help stop it. So that's why we need you. Become a member. Statuscoup.com/join, as low as $5 a month. And also, as I told you, we are very, very actively trying to grow our GoFundMe. Right now, we're at $42,346. We have an ambitious goal. We want to reach $50,000 by the end of this reporting trip. I don't know if it's going to happen, but we think it could happen. We want to show you what we're going to do because we've asked you to go fund us so we could go do things like this. So we're showing you what we're doing. But we need more resources, not just for this trip. It costs a lot of money to cover a presidential campaign. And unfortunately, I am worried that if we're not on the road covering this presidential campaign, I don't know a lot of independent media that will. It's no knock on independent media, but there's not a lot of outlets with the funding or frankly, the desire to cover a whole full campaign. So
and also, just to let you guys know, we're going to start going live. Also, we want to build up our Instagram page. I think right now I'm live on Instagram on Jordan's page, but we're going to start going live on Status Coup because we want to boost up our following because the following actually, you guys. You're the entity. You are our funders, our sponsors who support us, who support everything that we're doing. So obviously, the more followers we have, the more the larger our audience, the more funding we can get to be able to go and show the news and expose the corruption about corruption and the things that you guys care about.
And Brian said, if I was rich, Jordan, I'd fund you. That's the great thing, Brian. You don't have to be rich. Even $5 via GoFundMe helps. Even $5, $10, $15, $20. If you are in a really bad situation.
If you have it.
Right. If you're in a bad financial situation, we get it. Just share the live streams, like the live streams, share the live streams. It always helps to create a separate post. And also word of mouth makes a big difference too. Like tell people about Status Coup. Tell people, oh, they're actually out there covering these layoffs. They're actually out there covering X, Y, and Z. So if you can't fund, you can help us in other ways. You could send us story ideas. Email Jordan at protonmail.com. That's email Jordan at protonmail.com. However, if you do have a couple bucks, we're not asking you for the money so we could go play roulette at the casino. We're asking you for money so we could pay for hotels, pay for gas, eat, and have enough money then to pay for travel to cover a Bernie campaign, a Tulsi campaign, a Warren campaign, and the others.
Get a light because I left the light at home.
Yes. Oh, the lighting is out. Wonderful. So that's it. GoFundMe. I'll put the link in one more time, and the GoFundMe never sleeps. So if you can't fund right now, maybe consider doing it during the week. True, Jordan, but a $10,000 funding would change everything for you. You're absolutely right. $10,000.
Back to the GoFundMe.
A $10,000 donation would absolutely make a big effing difference.
$10,000 donation will.
That would be a game changer.
It'll allow us to do what we want to do. I mean, the last time we were out was in November,
right?
And we don't like that.
Right.
We like to be on the road, getting those stories out there because I mean it's great. We actually raised a lot of money. I mean, Jordan's been able to raise a lot of money pontificating in front of the camera. But our main thing is to be out there with the people like this. Going out there with the people. I mean, today, I think our highest reach was 160 watchers. When Jordan's at home, on Sundays, he has like 400 people watching. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So we understand there's a place for that. We need that. We're going to set it up while we're here. Right now, we just don't have really good internet service, so I have to use our live view, so we can't set up where he can like put the clips in and things like that. But we're going to do that while we're on the road because we understand you guys are used to that. It feels more at home for you.
Right. So definitely think about it, because the bottom line is, I think we need a change in psychology, not just on politics, but on media. So that change in psychology, what we were talking about with Bernie and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, is we have to start thinking differently, not it's just not realistic, and actually thinking about, no, it's not, it is realistic, because if we don't do a Green New Deal or something like that, the planet's going to fucking basically topple and burn. But we have to change our thinking on media, because frankly, I think people have gotten so used to like free media, but look what you've gotten for free media. Trash, propaganda, stenography.
Yeah.
Bullshit.
And it's not even fucking free media now.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
So even like what used to be free media, you get a paywall when you read like 4 or 5 articles at most of these websites. So what I'm saying is, your support is not charity. You are helping us grow a really, truly independent media business to go cover stories. Listen, I got a lot of energy left in this tank. I could cover stories on the road for a long time. Ty is a little different. He's a little older than me and also has a neck problem. Well, I think you got a few years left in you.
I don't know why you keep saying I'm older than you, dog.
You're a little older than me.
I'm not. Everyone knows that I'm not. Look at him and look at me.
So anyway, GoFundMe. Consider becoming a member at statuscoup.com/join. We might go live again We might go live again while we're driving, because we have a 4.5 hour drive ahead.
We will go live again.
And also remember, YouTube, not great at notifying you. Make sure you're clicking that bell and pressing all notifications, that you want all notifications. Doesn't mean you're going to get them, but that's the best chance of getting them. And share this video, like this video, tell people we're going to be on the road covering these stories all week. And again, if you're in the area of where we're going, email us. Email Jordan@protonmail.com. Story ideas, connections to people we could interview, all that. We are grassroots guerrilla journalism.
She said, I forgot her name. I follow her on Instagram. She said, keep the neck beard. She liked the neck beard.
You like that? Fantastic. I'm a little ill because of the mold in this hotel.
Hey, Raven Dawn, if you're listening, what's up? You always show love, and I think you've been following Jordan ever since the TYT days. She started following me.
Yeah.
Good looking out. We appreciate you.
So we'll be on the road. We might go live again today. So make sure you click all notifications. And also, if you're not aware of this, I'm going to put the link in the live stream now. This would be a big help too. Status Quo's interviews and live streams are available on iTunes. So that's another way that we're going to build revenue and bring in revenue. So if you go to our podcast on iTunes, if you miss a live stream, if you'd rather listen on your way to work or whatever, there's the link. Make sure you rate us 5 stars, even if you don't think we're that great. Just rate us 5 stars. No. And if you don't mind, write a review, because that's how you get higher on iTunes, when you rate 5 stars and you write a review. So there's the link.
Kevin Kim said, "Hey Ty, use these." What are you referring to?
So,
talking about razors.
Go to our podcast. There's the link. I put it in the super chat.
What's wrong?
Rate us 5 stars.
I don't understand why I need to shave. I think I look straight.
Rate us 5 stars and write a review. It would make a big difference. Right now, we only have 12 people. Well, we haven't really promoted it, so that's on us.
But we're going to start promoting a lot of stuff.
Right.
Everything.
So, that's it. We'll see you in a little bit.
Love y'all. We're going to be on the road in a minute. We got like 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Oh, it's 2:02.
Yeah.
They're going to charge us another day.
Yeah. Peace out.
Love you.